Hello, class. Our first lecture on this section is on measures of the center of data, what we call measures of central tendency in mathematics. So these are ways of looking at a data set and saying kind of where is it centered? Kind of what's the middle of this data set? And it turns out that there are a number of different ways to do that. So we're going to talk about three called the mean, the median, and the mode. So these ideas are different, but a lot of times the numbers end up being pretty similar in data that we'll talk about that's called normally distributed data in a few next week, I guess. So I'm going to go through and define all three of these, tell you how you find each of them in a data set, and we'll talk about kind of each of them individually. Okay? So the first one is the mean. So mean is what we usually call the average of a set of numbers. And I'll talk about why we don't use the word average in a minute once I talk about the median. So the mean is the sum of all data values divided by the number of data values. Okay? So, for example, if you had a set of data that was something like 1, 4, 6, you would take these numbers, 1 plus 4 plus 6, add them up, and divide by the number of values. So there's 3 values here, so we take 1 plus 4 plus 6 divided by 3, gives us 11 over 3. If you wanted to change that into a fraction, right, that's 3.67. That gives you the mean of the data values. Okay? So that's our first one. Relatively easy to find, probably familiar. Again, you've probably called it the average. But the reason we don't use the word average in mathematics is because average can actually refer to either the mean or the median. So people use the word average, but they don't always use it to refer to this number. Okay? And so, for example, if you go out and you Google the average number of, the average salary, what's the average income of a household in America, you'll find a number that's somewhere in the $50,000 range. Somewhere around that is the average income of a household in America. But that's not the mean income. That's the median income. Okay? So I'm going to explain what the median is, but the whole point here is that we don't use average. So average is vague and can refer to either median or mean. Okay, and so people use it both ways. They use it kind of sloppily, and so as mathematicians, we don't use the word average because we want to be specific. If we're talking about the sum of all the data values divided by the number of data values, we use mean. If we're talking about the middle value, we use median. Okay, so the median is the middle value in a data set or if there's not a middle, the average of the two middle values. Okay? So to find the median of a data set, what you're going to do is you're going to put all the values in order. So say your data set is 1, 3, 9, 14, 27, 52, let's do one more. 64. So these are in order. So the middle value, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 values. The middle one is going to be 14. Okay? Because there are 3 values before it, 3 values after it. It's right in the middle of the list. Okay? So what you can do is, if you're trying to find the middle, you can take the number of values, divide it by 2. Excuse me. So if you take 7, there are 7 values here, divide that by 2, you're going to get 3.5. So 3.5 would be kind of right here between the third and the fourth. You take the one after that. Okay? Now, the other bit of language here, it says if there's not a middle value, the average of the 2 middle values, that's going to happen when we have an even number of values. Okay? So if instead of this list, we had the list of values 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 12, 15, right? So if you count these up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 values, what's the middle in a set of 8 values? Well, it would be right in between the fourth and the fifth, right? Because you want there to be 4 before, 4 after. There's no value there in between the fourth and the fifth, right? And so what we do is we average these two. Okay, we take the mean of these two. I shouldn't say average because I just said that that was a bad word to use in mathematics, right? So you would take 4 plus 7, divide by 2, you get 5.5. Okay, so 5.5 would be the median of this data set. Okay, so if there is a middle value, you just take that one. If there's not a middle value, if there's kind of 2 middle values because it's an even number of data points, then you take the average of the 2 middle ones, and that's going to be your mode, or I'm sorry, going to be your median, rather. Okay? The last one I want to talk about, which is why I flubbed that last line, so this is the median. The last one is the mode. Okay? And so the mode is the data value that appears most often. And just as a little bit of complication here, there may be more than one. Okay? So the mode is the most frequent data value. It's the value with the highest frequency. But that may be more than one particular value. So in some cases, so I'm going to erase the rest of these other than mode. Right? You might have a data set 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say, sorry, 4, 4, 5, 6. Right? So here, the mode is 3. The most common value is the one, it appears 4 times. So that's the mode. Right? Or a mode, it's probably a better way to say it. Right? So that's the most frequent data value. 1 appears twice, 4 appears twice, but none of the others appear as often as 3 does. So I should write 3 here for the mode rather than 4. Sorry about that. So the mode is 3, which appears 4 times, which is why I accidentally wrote that down. Okay? So the mode is the most frequent data value. Notice here that what I was saying earlier about these kind of being measures of the center, if you look at the other two here, the mean and the median. So if you look at the mean is 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, all divided by the number of data values, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And so if you add all these up, 1, 2, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 20, 24, 29, 35 divided by 11. You get, I'll have to actually put this in my calculator real quick. Let's see. 35 divided by 11, 3.18 is the mean. If you look at the median, well, there are 11 values here, so the median is going to be the sixth value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because there are 5 before it, 5 after it, so the median is 3, because that's the sixth value. So notice here, the mode is 3, the mean is 3.18, the median is 3. They're all very close to each other, okay? And so this happens a lot. And so that's why we call them measures of the center. The center value of 3 is kind of the middle of the data set. And so if we've got something that's kind of measuring the center, a lot of times these are going to be very similar, okay? The reason that they're very similar is because our data is kind of bunched up in the center and it's evenly spread around that center, okay? If our data is unevenly distributed in some way, then these will be different, okay? So let me give you one more example of calculating each of them. So erase this one. So let's look at a data set where it's not arranged around the center, where we've got 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay? So this data is evenly arranged around the center, but it's bunched up at the ends, right? If you graphed it, it would kind of graph like this and have a bunch at 1, a bunch at 5, and less in between. And so let's see what that does to each of these. So as far as the mean, our first one, well, we're going to add up all these values, and I don't want to write them all out, so I'm just going to add them all up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 11, 15, 19, 24, 29, 39 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different values. So 39 over 13 comes out to 3. So our mean is 3. That's the center of our data. Our median is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since we've got 13, it's going to be the seventh value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 3. 3 is right in the middle here. And then our mode is where this gets more interesting, because what's the mode here? What's the value that appears most frequently? Well, there's more than 1, right? So 1 appears 4 times, but so does 5. Okay? And so what we end up getting is a mode of 1 and 5. Both 1 and 5 are modes. Okay? So you can have more than one mode. This is what's called a bimodal distribution because it's got 2 most frequent values. But you can have 3 modes or 4 modes. In fact, if you have a situation where every point has the exact same frequency, like if every value appears once, every single value would be a mode. Okay? And so the mean and the median kind of classically give you centers more than mode does. Mode can move around if there are values that are more frequent elsewhere in the data. Okay? So in our next lecture, we're going to talk about standard deviation and measures of the spread.